Welcome into the Ringerverse. This is, of course, the Ringers Nexus podcast feed for all things fandom. We are Steve, the architect Ahlman, the builder and tinkerer of things. We are Jomi, the explainer, Adeniran. You've got questions, he's got answers. We are Old Man Van here, the receding resurgent hairline. We are Coke Baby Chuck, the 24-karat closer.
Silence was...
And we got the Midnight Collective rocking with us. Aleya, note nickname Zenieris.
Note nickname.
No nickname.
I'll tell you something, this is the last week with the last show with no nickname for Aleya.
I don't even believe you.
I swear.
Okay.
I've been taking suggestions and the people have had some great suggestions. Also, we have Arjuna, the Watcher, Ramgopal, and making his return. Oh, the Choco Taco, Mr. Midnight, Count Huncula.
I'll take that one. I like that.
Jonathan Kermah. They are the collective. We are known as the Midnight Boys. Follow us on socials. Insta, Twitter, Facebook, TikTok. For now, save Jomi's job.
We're almost on 30K on Instagram.
Oh, wow.
So y'all hit that follow button. Me and Steve talked about this earlier. If you guys get us to 30K, Steve's gonna rap Not Like Us the entire song.
Yes.
Oh, wow.
Whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
Mustard on a B-ho, Debo,
Yep.
he a rep.
Not until 30K. 30K, and you can look forward to
At 30K, you gonna say nigga?
It's going to be 70K by the end of this pod. If you have your
Bro,
way.
can you imagine Steve turns into Quentin Tarantino? We like,
God damn. Steve said now 30, okay, 30K.
Hey, listen, hey, you heard it here, folks. Go follow.
It's funny. All right, we're now on YouTube. You can watch every Midnight Boys House of R, Talk to Thrones episodes on youtube.com/@Ringerverse. Like, comment, and subscribe. Also, the Ringerverse will be live at the El Rey Theater this summer in LA. We'll be there on July 17th. Check out ringer.com/events for more info. Guys, it's going to be a fantastic show. The Ringerverse, the House of R, the Midnight Boys.
also Jomi's birthday.
Oh, Jomi's
Mhm.
birthday.
Yeah.
It's Jomi's birthday. And for Jomi's birthday, we're going to because we're going to party for Jomi's birthday
Post
that
strip
weekend.
club after the live show.
Oh, shit.
Yeah.
Post, yes.
I
It's
didn't
strip
realize
club,
that.
then the live show.
I didn't realize that, like, they do have all nude strip clubs in LA.
They do.
Did
Yeah,
you think they
I
didn't?
didn't know that.
Okay, so even for me, going to a strip club where you're sober is an odd thing, right?
Okay.
You start wanting to minister to people.
Going there sober.
You got the pamphlets. You got like the little like New Testament.
What type of
Bible.
sober are we talking about?
Well, there's no liquor
There's no liquor at where?
at an all-nude strip club in Los Angeles. There's no liquor.
That's not allowed?
Wait,
So you guys see this I know. You guys are like, oh, they have them. You guys don't know what the fuck you're talking about.
No, I don't.
we don't.
I don't know.
So-
I'm so
informed.
glad that I don't know what I'm talking about.
So you're so glad that you don't. What is? What,
In this
so-
regard, yes, I'm glad I don't know what I'm talking about.
so it's dirty to go to the strip club. It's
No, it's
like, why are you glad you don't know what you're talking about? Like what's the
because
thing?
if anybody will educate me on this.
Got you. I'll do it right now.
Yeah.
Okay. So in other places you go, like you go to Miami, they don't care. You bring a gun into the strip club. But here in Los Angeles, there are all nude strip clubs. They stay open all night long. Basically, it's like 4 a.m, but they don't serve any alcohol.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So you're essentially no alcohol.
Right.
So you're essentially in there watching women dance all nude, but you're drinking pineapple juice.
Right.
You're drinking cranberry juice
Some
for
people like
$20 a pop.
Is there a buffet culture in strip clubs in LA? Because I
There
know
is.
that's Portland.
There is a buffet culture. You have
Okay.
you got different types of foods.
I'm bricked up sober just to see some areola. This is insane.
Sober. The sober thing makes it tougher. Because the sober thing,
That's for the love of the game. That's the love of the game. If you're not,
the sober thing makes you go, man, you got your whole life ahead of you, man.
Oh man.
Oh my God.
And there's nothing wrong with doing what you're doing. So
Mhm.
you're providing a service to people. What do you want to do after this?
Put the cape
Do you,
on.
do you,
You're trying
put the
to
cape
save
on?
Right.
these women.
I'm not saying when you're
Fans
drunk,
dressed
it's
like
like,
Book of
oh,
Mormon.
yeah. But when you're sober, you're like, I wonder if I could be like a helpful mentor to anybody.
right. It is 3
'Cause I care
p.m.
about
It is
people.
3 p.m.
I
you
care
know.
about people.
Jesus
'Cause I'm like, are you safe? Before this dance, are you safe? You doing okay? Yeah, I'm okay. And then starts crying and then ruin the whole night. Anyway, so I don't know how we got on that.
I don't know either.
Every Tuesday and Thursday, House of R will deep dive into House of the Dragon and Acolyte. Every Monday, the Midnight Boys will be giving you their reactions to Hot D. Next Tuesday, we'll be live at 7 p.m. prime time on YouTube. Live.
All the stuff we have to cut
You
out.
guys, the Midnight Boys will be live on YouTube on the Ringerverse channel at 7 p.m. primetime. Charles is fucking raring to go.
I'm not going to be there.
Reacting to the finale of The Acolyte. Woo! There will be wonder.
Amusement.
All right, and next Thursday, we'll be back for The Boys Season 4 finale. You guys, we are serving it up next week, okay? Next week is crazy.
There's a lot going on.
We got the live show.
Excited for that.
We got the Boys finale.
Not excited for that.
We got the Acolyte finale.
Definitely not excited for that.
Got a lot of stuff going on, baby. Every Sunday, Talk to Thrones will be up right after the latest episode of Hot D ends. That show's cooking with grease, Charles. You'll admit that.
With grease?
With grease.
It's cooking.
But not with grease.
I gotta see. Here's the thing. I got very, very high on the Acolyte supply. I was just like,
jury's
everything's
still
working.
out on House
no
of the
more.
Dragon.
I'm taking every episode as it comes.
Every episode as it comes.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. Spoiler warning for The Boys and all Star Wars content. If you've read it, if you've seen it, if you've been a part of it, we might talk about it.
No book spoilers for Star Wars?
No book spoilers for Star Wars.
Yo,
though.
guys, the universe kicked me in the goddamn nuts.
What happened?
House of Dragons Road Warrior on Twitter.
Dang.
Yeah, the whole shit was. I was like, I was reading the tweet. I was like, oh, that's what happens. And I was like, well.
I mean, yeah, it's been out there for a long, long time.
Yeah, it's, it
happens.
It happens. Steve?
All right.
We're getting ready to talk about
The Boys.
You're listening to a reaction podcast. The spoilers are coming. Okay. We have to put you in the know before we talk about The Boys. The only way to put you in the know is the Midnight Manifest. The only person who can do that is Chuck Wagon.
All right, this is your Midnight Manifest for The Boys, The Insider, directed by Katrina McKenzie, written by Paul Greylong. Sage realizes she's been pushed out of Homelander's orbit after the debacle at the right-wing party. She's now replaced by Firecracker and her breast milk. The boys learn that Homelander and Newman are planning on killing the president, but also Mother's Milk informs the team that he's quitting after his panic attack and leaves Butcher in charge. Butcher reveals to the team that he kidnapped Newman's baby daddy, Samir, to make more of the soup's virus. Butcher places a newly freed Frenchie and Kimiko in charge of getting the virus up and running, but Samir outsmarts them and escapes. A-Train pushes Mother's Milk to rethink his decision about leaving the boys behind. Tired of Butcher and his team, Homelander sends the Deep and Black Noir to kill them, but A-Train and MM help save the day. But Starlight is kidnapped by the shapeshifter, who also steals all the dirt the team has on Newman and Homelander. That's your Midnight Manifest for The Boys.
Just real quick, you say debacle?
Debacle. It's, guys, fuck off. Fuck off.
I'm
okay?
asking.
Fuck off. I don't care. I don't care. I don't care. I don't care. I'm on edge. I don't care.
Charles, why, what's going on, buddy? Like, talk to us. You're with your friends here. Not just us, but them. You're with your friends. What's going on there, buddy? Talk to us.
I was so heartbroken last night. I was like, I'm about to sit down, watch The Acolyte. This is about to be great. And it was like the Homelander scene when he's in the movie theater where I was like, what did I do with my life? Like, what decisions
my friend,
have gotten me to this point?
Show. You're on a different show. Stay focused, Chuck.
What? No, because the boys had it too. I turned on the boys right after. I'm like, well, the boys, quality programming. We'll see what happens. And then them puppets started singing about Antifa, and I was like, all right, man.
Hey, Charles,
I like that.
Charles, guess what?
Right.
I got bad news for you. I liked the episode.
I know you did. I know, because
Charles,
you a whole liar, bro.
Charles,
You're a whole liar.
I liked the episode.
Which one?
Let me tell you.
The boys?
Both of them.
All right.
And Charles, hold on real
No.
quick. Hold on. Let me tell you something. Now, let's just stick to the boys right now. I think this episode is exemplary of what the boys should have been this entire season.
I can agree to that.
I think that this episode had in it stakes for individual characters It put individual characters in situations where they had to make decisions that were consequential to the plot of the show. And I think it showed how the relationships between these characters, their expectations, their desires, and their expectations, and their wants from each other, how they could all be used to make meaningful plot stuff. The stuff between Newman and Huey is stuff that's been built. The stuff between A-Train and Ashley, where you don't know what's happened. A-Train's turn, Starlight and Huey, the reveal at the end, Mother's Milk, like ceding control to Butcher and then coming in and saving the day, being the voice of reason, figuring out his role. I personally think that this season would have been a much better season had we gotten to this type of episode a little bit sooner. I thought this was one of the best episodes of the season.
All right, you got it. Unserious.
I agree with you.
Yeah, same points all around.
And I think you missed the most important connection, which was Butcher and Ryan.
No, Butcher and Ryan.
Yeah.
Like that meant
Jomi
something.
Cook, Jomi.
That meant something.
I might change Jomi's name. Jomi might be Jomi the Cook Adeniran.
Yeah, I mean,
The cook is good.
Y'all aren't cooking anything over there.
Let him cook.
Here's the thing. We spent a lot of the season worried about Butcher and like how far would he go. And his entire thing with his wife, seeing his dead wife, was like, Ryan, you got to save Ryan. He's between like, I know Ryan's your son. I know you love Ryan. I know we have that connection, but Ryan's a soup. What am I supposed to do when push comes to shove? And he tells, the imaginary cusser, he's like, I got to trust that Ryan's going to do the right thing because my wife is like, I know the lesson she would have imparted to him. I have to trust that he's not going to turn to another Homelander. I can't risk killing him and turning him to another Homelander or something going wrong if I just go start killing soups, doing a whole genocide. For him to see it on the TV, like, yo, Ryan, like by himself, no prompting, no nothing, just like, look, this whole thing is crazy. We can't do this. It validates Butcher's entire thing, but seeing his wife, like his whole ethos is like, all right, cool. I can't do the crazy stuff I've been trying to do all season. I got to get on the right path. And then he dies kind of. Mm-hmm. But it meant something. If you've been watching the whole series, it means something for Butcher to be like, yo, I finally put faith in somebody and was rewarded for it.
For a guy that wants, you had two hero turns in this one. You had A-Train talking about the fact that he had become a hero. You see Ryan actually, for someone who likes emotional stakes, the show did a lot of mining to put these characters in different emotional situations. And I feel like this episode paid it off. Steve?
Yeah. I think Huey's arc as well is actually something that's kind of getting more interesting now that, again, not to know that the business with his dad was a big drag on the season, but that was a big emotional point that was isolated. But now that he's back into the fold, I really liked that him and Starlight's arc is actually going somewhere. Finally, we got Starlight doing something, which is pretty great. I'd love to see that. Yeah. And really, I think on the Homelander front, to know that he's actually taken a backseat in this episode, at least, dealing with, Web Weaver and everything was, gross and pretty nasty. But to know that we can actually stop spinning its wheel, the show can stop spinning its wheels a tiny bit for the sake of Homelander to take a backseat and that everybody else gets forward momentum in one fell swoop, feels great. It feels great that we're getting it a little bit later in the season, but to know that we're bookended with some good momentum is very encouraging.
It's nice to see some forward momentum for the plot and the characters. It was nice to see. You didn't like it, obviously.
I think this episode illustrated probably my biggest critique of The Boys, just as a series, which is it's always the illusion of change and always the illusion of momentum. And I just felt like I had seen this penultimate episode before. I had seen the beats of this before, where it's like I got excited when the Deep and Black Noir go to fight the Boys. I'm like, all right, something is happening. We are approaching something. And then it's like, oh, well, we really can't hurt anybody and everybody's going to walk away from the fight fine because none of our main characters can die. similar to all of the A-Train emotional stuff, it literally reminded me beat for beat of what I've seen in seasons prior of like the Queen Maeve stuff, where I'm like, how many times can I see a member of the Seven realize their humanity, realize that family is important, and become the mole and all this stuff? There are like plot points where I'm like, oh, this is kind of like a wash and repeat. The characters are different, the dialogue is different, but structurally it's the same. So like nothing to me really changed in this episode. One of the biggest kind of sins for me in this entire episode is just Frenchie popping up. And they're like, all right, we got Frenchie, he's here again. And I'm like, wait, then why have him in prison in the first place? Like, why even do that whole storyline and sideline this character for 2 or 3 episodes if you're just like, well, he's back now, and now him and Kimiko are going to be good because she's going to tell him, like, the big mystery of her origin. That's not that interesting. Like I said, there's Eric Kripke and co. There's always a base level of quality with everything that they're doing, but it does seem like there was not enough story for this season to make sense for me. And just every single time something happened, even when you're supposed to feel something when the Deep's octopus lover dies, I'm like, well, I knew this was gonna happen because I know the Deep is a piece of shit.
Do you think you were supposed to feel something? You ever think you ask too much? Like, you ask, sometimes I think you put too much pressure on yourself. When the Deep's octopus lover is dying, it was just a kooky, funny scene. I mean, it was like the Deep is kooky and funny. The octopus dies like 3 times in a row. Mm-hmm. I don't know if that was supposed to be like an emotionally gut-wrenching, raw moment. And you putting pressure on yourself to feel something from the Deep's octopus. I don't think it's putting pressure on myself.
It is quite at this point in the boys' existence, how many more times can I watch a member of the Seven turn away from this and be surprised? At this point, how many times can I be like, oh, the boys are in peril, and then all of them walk away unscathed? And that's not me saying people have to be mortally wounded or hurt to progress the narrative, but there does have to be some level of, all right, what are we marching towards? Because it does seem like they're doing that thing like, well, we want you to think all these characters are in danger, but they're not because we have a whole other season to go. And I'm like, all right, womp womp, who cares?
There's no consequence follow through for any of the things that...
For anything.
Especially in Frenchie
even
for that
some
episode.
Of the ways that they're acting sometimes, I'm just like, it only took one conversation with Kimiko for Frenchie to just be like, all right, I'm back. And that whole storyline to me is a waste of my time then.
All right. I need a bar put at the bottom of the thing because I got to say something about this criticism. This criticism is kind of basic. And let me tell you why. The reason why I say that is if you didn't like the episode, you didn't like the episode. None of the boys are going to die because they're the main characters on the show. And then even in the villains that are going to die, right? Like, how can I put this? There's what you're saying is not wrong, but it's not wrong at all, but it's sort of an odd thing. It's like reading a Superman comic, issue in and issue out, waiting for Lex Luthor to die. They're not going to kill him. Or waiting for Lois to die. She's not going to die. Like Jimmy Olsen is going to be okay.
Yep.
Perry, maybe. Okay.
Perry varies.
Like Perry,
enough.
maybe.
Guy,
those people are going to be okay. If you're reading the book and every single time you're waiting, oh shit, when are they going to take out one of the characters? When are they going to take out somebody? When are they going to rip someone who's integral, or maybe even not integral, to the fabric of the show out of the show? Okay, when is one of the Avengers going to die? Like we got to get all the way to Endgame or Infinity War to like lose one. Like unless you count Quicksilver, which I don't. But when is one of the Avengers going to die? Like Marvel got criticized for killing their villains too much, right? So like in this situation, the Deep is not going to die.
But I told you, I did say, I'm not saying that I need any of these characters to die or be mortally wounded.
So what did you need?
But I do need to feel that when they make decisions, there's consequences for these decisions that makes sense and makes it worthwhile for me to like watch something versus shit just kind of keeps happening. Everybody walks away unscathed until the next episode. And I'm like, all right, then what am I looking towards?
You didn't feel consequences for Sister Sage being kicked out of the 7 because she didn't tell Homelander? Like, would that scene have been better if he'd have lazed her to death?
No, I'm glad he didn't, but there hasn't been enough work done with Sister Sage for A, for me to think that she's the smartest person on this planet, and for B, for me to even care that she's kicked out of the 7. Because to be honest, like her and Firecracker to me are just like, they're just placeholders. There are another 2 new characters, and this does happen with every season of The Boys, really, is that, all right, we're going to introduce characters for Homelander to bounce off of. Characters that can, like, push him in different ways, and that's fine. But if in this penultimate episode, I'm like, well, Firecracker's an idiot, and she really didn't do shit, and then Sister Sage just kind of, like, walks out of the building. She'll probably be back in the season finale or whatever.
Almost certainly.
I'm just kind of like, I'll put it to you this way. Are you hankering for more Sister Sage and Firecracker? Like, are you on the edge of your seat being like, I want to know more about these characters? Because me, I'm like...
It's an odd question.
Why?
Because those are not the questions, those are not the characters that you're supposed to want more of.
I think, here's the thing. I think good television shows make you care about, at least, not all of the characters, but if we're giving this amount of time to them, I should have some level of investment in what happens to them.
So Succession, you like Succession?
Yes.
You watch Succession going, I can't wait to see more Mattson.
He was a good enough character where it was just like, I was wondering, what is he going to do and how he plays off these characters? Like there was points where I'm like, oh, he can hurt them. I was like,
he was cool when he showed up. When he showed up, he was cool. And he provided enough of a counterbalance to the characters that you cared about for you to be like, oh my God, there is their foil. There is their villain. He provided enough of an emotional thing for when Roman goes off on him and does the whole thing for you to be like, that makes sense. But if Mattson showed up in the episode or if he didn't show up in the episode, you didn't give a fuck because it's not his show. It's not the show where he's supposed to be on there driving the drama and you're supposed to care about everything. It's not Firecracker's show. It's not Sage's show. Those characters only matter insofar as their relationship to Homelander, to Butcher, to Huey, to Eminem,
but I don't
to
even
the rest
take
of those
that.
characters
I don't
like
think
that.
That's even fair because like we just got done talking about The Boys. It's like a good show. I didn't really give a fuck about Tina until we get an episode where I'm like, oh, this episode is
You're talking about The Bear, you mean?
The Bear, yeah. When you see the IO directed episode about Tina, you take a character that I did not have that much investment in, and you're just like, oh, you did so much work with her. I'm looking back at the seasons, I'm looking at different things, and I'm like, oh, this gives me a deeper appreciation for the show and her, where it's like, I haven't gotten that episode with Firecracker or Sage, so when anything happens to them...
Because it wouldn't make any sense. You want a whole Firecracker episode
I'm not saying I want a whole...
about her.
I'm not saying I want a whole episode about them. I need moments within the season for when something happens to them, for it to mean something to me. Because right now, it's just like they're kind of chess pieces that are being moved around. And I'm like, when they pop in and pop out, I'm like, all right, who gives a fuck? Like, I don't care.
It's just, okay, and we'll get the midboys in here. Because like, this is the way I look at it. To me, this is, well, okay, first of all, I'm trying to think of how I say this without, because I'm not trying to defend what's been a lackluster season of The Boys to a degree. Average, maybe slightly above average. I like this episode. But, like, I'm trying to understand because, like, I've read comics my entire life, right?
Mm-hmm.
And there have been, like, off-brand Avengers.
Yeah.
Remember, like, Jack of Hearts? What was his name?
I do remember Jack of Hearts.
Okay, yeah, Jack of Hearts pops in. Fucking, the best thing about Hickman was he was able to take, like, Molecule Man and make him, like, essential to, Jack of Hearts, guys like that pop in. And they'll pop in for random things. They'll die. Remember one time the Avengers Mansion got burned up or something like that. And the reality is that these characters, it's kind of like the old Star Trek joke.
Red shirts.
huh?
Red
Red
shirts.
Yeah, the old Star Trek joke. I mean, would it be great if you really, really were invested into Firecracker's story? I mean, if they gave her a whole episode, or if they gave Sister Sage a whole episode, what those people are, they're really plot devices. And
I think if you're telling me that characters are plot devices, that's actually the problem. Because like we don't say that about Andor. When we look at Andor, we're just like, oh, there's even the smallest characters on that show. You're just like, oh, I feel for them when they died. They might have only been in a handful of episodes, but you're like, I understand their struggle. I understand their strife. I understand what they're fighting for and against.
I'll be honest with you.
They're not plot devices.
I'll be honest with you. I think that's overstated. I think that's overstated. I think that Andor does a good job, and I know that Andor is the end all be all of sci-fi series glory, but I think that there are many characters right now in Andor that I could describe them to you, and you guys wouldn't remember their names. You wouldn't have known, like, and if they died, I think. Maybe put it to you like this, if I was to give a little ground here. I think the overall world of Andor was created to where the situation seems so desperate that when there are a bunch of guys that are locked in a prison, and those guys are willing to break out of that prison, and some of them are willing to jump off of a huge platform to their freedom, I think connecting yourself to that overall archetype makes it easier for you to care about an individual or somebody fighting for freedom or somebody that's in that. I think so. But I think individually, the characters themselves in that show or any other show, most of the characters that are in a show serve to drive the hero's journey or the narrative journey of the characters you're supposed to care about.
They shouldn't be plot devices. I mean, if
they are plot devices.
If we even look at The Boys, like I would say, like Soldier Boy, I wasn't rooting for Soldier Boy. I didn't want him to win, but his story was compelling enough and interesting enough and revealed enough about other characters, whether it was Butcher or Homelander or whatever, where I was just like, all right, I'm following him. Whatever happens to him, like I'm scared of him. I'm invested in this character. It is giving a propulsive force to everything that's happening in this show. And I just think in this season, because I don't think there was enough story to go around, a lot of the characters just kind of feel like they just are existing in space. That's why I think people are complaining about Starlight. Starlight doesn't have enough to do. And I'm just like, well, yeah, because she really is not, she's not a part of the boys. She's not a part of the Seven. And there's nothing really left for there's really nowhere left for that character to go that's as interesting as evil Superman going up against Butcher. There's just not, and I think the boys used to be very, very good. Like, even last season, not to compare it to last season, I wasn't the biggest fan of last season, but even like what Black Noir was going through. You know what I'm saying? You're taking a smaller character, you're fleshing him out. I'm just like, all right, man, this guy is out of his mind. He's seeing fucking cartoons. Like there's all these little things where
he had been around for 2 seasons though. So to do that, so this is what I would say, and we can get off this because I don't want to get over encumbered. Like, to me, I've seen A New Hope a bunch of different times. When Kenobi dies in A New Hope, it doesn't do anything to me.
No, you're right.
Right, because Kenobi's purpose in A New Hope, he's not even in that much of the movie as a live guy. I guess he's in more of you think maybe 45 minutes on.
No, he's in. He's on the Millennium Falcon. He's fighting.
But Kenobi's, like, when you look at the cast, you're like, that motherfucker not gonna live, right? You're like, Kenobi's purpose in A New Hope. And we care about Obi-Wan Kenobi. He matters.
Yes.
Kenobi's purpose in A New Hope is Luke. That's the purpose. And there are going to be some characters in some shows that so when he dies, when he gets cut through and Vader's like, what the fuck happened to this nigga? When he dies, you're not thinking, oh my God, what happened to Kenobi? You're thinking, oh my God, what's going to happen to Skywalker?
No, but I'm thinking even emotionally, to your point, like Obi-Wan Kenobi's not in that much of the movie. When you first see the movie, you're like, I'm interested because he's an old kooky guy in the desert. But when Luke is all beat up, he's just like, oh my gosh, this was my mentor. the guy who gets me off this planet, I feel for that character because the other characters care. As the boys in this season right now, I don't even think the characters in this show care about the new people. Like, and it's not just the new people. I think a lot of the characters in the show,
they don't care about the new. You know, Mint Boy, settle this argument.
Oh man, thank you for that. No, all right. I think it's propping up to be like, all right, what's the apex of what the boys have been? Are we calling that season 3, season 2?
Probably season 2. I say would probably be.
I can only judge the show on its own merits. I can't talk about what like more grander successions in Star Wars of the world can be because that's honestly not the story that it's telling. When I think that the boys is at its most propulsive, I think every character works in sequence with a bigger plot that informs every other character. I think the worst that this season has gotten is to when we've lost the plot for 80% of the people on screen and we're only working towards some nebulous objective that we know is coming at the end of this season. The better parts of this episode are when I'm seeing the ratio of people clicking and in succession with each other is more than it is not. And that's been working. When it works, it works. I don't think that when we separate these characters in a vacuum from, okay, the 7 is now reduced to the 4 now. A-Train's barely there. Sister Sage is reluctantly trying to coerce Homelander to her side, even though that he's clearly in the throes of whatever things that he's got going on with Firecracker. We gotta work with that. And for the most part, that's working because even now Firecracker's like, oh, I'm in over my head the moment that I think that I've got this guy on a leash.
Mm-hmm.
And that's compelling still. That, to me, is still what makes the show work. To know that Butcher is losing grip of the, people in his head, to know that he actually has to work with the people in front of him, that still works. And to know that, like, okay, when Eminem is finally receding control.
You guys keep saying Eminem.
Is that wrong to say Eminem?
Mother's milk.
Yeah, you've said Eminem.
Maybe.
I would say it's y'all.
I think it's MM.
It's definitely MM.
Okay.
It's not Mother's.
Well,
It's
there's
not
two
Mother's
M's.
and milk. It's
Yeah,
MM.
Mother's
It's
and
Mother's
milk.
milk.
Mother's milk. You could
Mother's
say
and
Eminem
milk
though.
is kind of nuts.
You
Now that I
think
okay.
Homelander, if he knew, does Homelander know his name is like they call him Mother's Milk? I know his name is Marvin Milk.
Mhm.
Homelander's a milk guy, so
Would Homelander suck on
You're a milk
Mother's
guy.
milk's teats?
that's what I'm saying. Like,
Let me ask you a question. When Firecracker,
Never had the chance.
Firecracker sprays, would that be like your overall top situation?
The answer
Because
is
of
no.
getting milk from the milk?
The answer is no. I'm not Josh Hart. Don't do me like that.
You sure?
Yeah, I'm not there yet.
I don't know.
I'm not that woke.
I'm not. You're sure, bruh?
I'm sure.
Because when I saw
I'm sure.
her spray him, I thought, wow, that's Jomi's deal right there.
That's not.
That's
Wow.
the first thought that you had
Yeah.
on the couch.
Mhm.
Thinking of Jomi.
Me and Khalik were there.
This is like,
I was like,
hey,
this
Jomi,
is
you
the type
saw
of
that?
shit. The Jomi would dig this shit.
I'm not.
Jomi,
good.
why are you like?
not
Just
there.
admit that you'd be like,
I'm
oh.
not in. I kind of feel like
Jomi,
it-
rate
it'd
the
be
spray right now.
0 out of 10. Like you gotta think about it. Imagine you having like the worst day of your life, man. You went to the party and the whole thing got messed up. You got embarrassed in front of everybody, right? And now this jabroni coming here trying to tell you some whatever, and then boom, you got milk in your eyes.
Hold on for a second. Let's go back to this worst day of your life. Jomi, what have you been through?
To make that part of the worst day of your life.
Wait. I want people to hear. Sometimes people's trauma leaps out. Charles, did you hear that?
I
Jomi
was
says,
like,
imagine you had the
Hold
worst
on,
day of your
just
life.
wait a second. Wait a second, Kerm, did you hear that? Jomi says, think about the worst day of your life. You go to the party.
Now incorporate.
You get embarrassed in front of everybody.
For
What the fuck?
for Homelander, he hated that.
Yeah.
That was not the word. All right, so
I think that was more of an annoying day.
You're telling me you would not. It's the worst day of your life. Like party, whatever you have it is happening, and then a beautiful woman just shows up and she's just like, "I'm gonna squirt you with milk." You're just
That's
like,
the
"This made my
last-
day worse."
Hold
That's
on.
the last thing I want.
I'll be honest with you. I think there are more women that could spray you with milk than there are women who couldn't spray you with milk. I think you could get. I think you get sprayed with milk.
Also,
70%
in
of the women.
LA, just
In
like,
LA.
come on.
I don't know.
In no
I
way.
mean, we have.
It's like, come on, man.
I would probably put it more like 15. 85.
15% could spray you with milk.
15 per.
Yeah.
All right. Niggas just lying.
Nah,
They
lying.
lying.
They lying,
What would you
bro.
put the percentage at
For me,
in LA?
of being, I mean, I'm down to try it basically. So
I was about to say it's like 75%.
Yeah,
I'm going off the vitamins right now.
yeah.
Dog, you walk out of your door, there's beautiful women everywhere. What are you talking about, Jomi?
Here's what it is, man. Y'all not from LA, you know what I'm saying? Y'all don't go south of the 10.
Yes, I do.
You know what I'm
I
saying?
go there
You
all the
might-
time.
You for sure don't.
Oh, you definitely don't.
You definitely don't.
Have you been around? Oh, this is a good question for you. So you've been in LA for a second.
Yes.
You're ranked top 5 party boy of LA right now.
No, I am not.
You are. I
That's
see it on
true.
Instagram.
Yeah.
I am not.
Streets
I've
are
seen
talking.
it. Streets are
Top
talking.
5 party boy
Yeah.
of Instagram
Definitely
right now.
not.
You
Big
definitely
facts.
are.
No, yeah, absolutely.
Have you actually been to the places in LA, the GS Sports Lounge, places like that? That's where we're going this week. Shout out to the GS. That's where
I'm
we're
not
going
even
Saturday.
gonna hold y'all.
Hold on. I swear, Saturday, the 4 of us, GS Sports Lounge.
I'm there.
The GS is. I want to see how you move in the GS.
I don't know, man.
You looking it up?
Yeah.
I want to see how you move in the GS.
These plates aren't looking too healthy, though.
Yeah, nah. What are you talking
The
about?
food.
Just go to Orange Theory.
Yeah, you see, do it after.
bro.
Like, try to act like the plate's gonna be. I want to see.
You
'cause
put me anywhere on God's green earth. Come on.
I know you can do your thing, but I want to say you haven't done it yet. You've been in a lot of the lakes, but not a lot of the woods. The Silver Lakes, not the Inglewoods.
Ooh, these are
Okay,
You guys
you've
are
been in
right.
some
Charles
of the,
of the
You've been in
Woods.
some of the parks, but you haven't been anywhere where you've seen somebody do like this at the door.
Yeah. Pull up Naruto signs
You
there.
know what I'm
Naruto
saying?
side is crazy,
Because
dog.
sometimes you'll be at one of these spots and somebody will see their homie and they'll be like, "What's up?"
And then jujitsu's in front of you. Yeah.
And you'll be like, "I hope everything goes okay." My man, what's up
I
with
know.
you, bro?
I don't even like where this is going. Y'all are doubting me. I don't like this.
Oh no, I'm not. Look, I seen you at Hot Water Cornbread. So I'm not. I'm just saying you haven't gone out there yet. Plus, I need to make some calls for you anyway to make sure that you're good in different places. Because what's going to happen is Charles is going to
Check it in Charles.
Charles is going to meet somebody somewhere. This is what happens. Jomi knows. Jomi knows. He's going to
Yeah.
meet somebody somewhere, and then because Waze doesn't care how you get to where you're going.
Right. Waze is a psyop.
Waze
bad.
will take you. You'll be in this bitch. Waze will have you stopping at stop signs and niggas will be asking you, "Hey, you know where you at?" And I'll be like, I promise you it's the app. I wasn't trying to drive through your streets. I promise you it's the app, bruh. Whatever you want me to do, I'll claim that shit.
Charles has got like 6 flags when he comes back from one
like
Waze
Charles
trip.
got different hats.
Yeah.
Like-
He's like, oh, this block? Okay, just
This where it's
Pulls
nice
down
to
the
be
thing.
African. I just be like, no, I'm not from here. I'm from Africa. I don't bag like that. You know what I'm saying? Get him with the little no.
Can we get off this, guys?
Hello,
I'm
you know
not a
what I'm saying?
partier. I'm a good, humble man. I stay inside every.
I'm not sure. It,
Boys is good. Y'all hating. I liked it.
No, this. All right,
I liked it.
let's be real.
You
Because
hating.
y'all motherfuckers will be like, damn, this season, I don't know. You get one above average episode. You like, hey man, season's great. Everything worked
not
out.
what we
I'm
said.
like, come
Not
on,
what
bro.
we said.
That's
Not
not
what we
what
said
we
at all.
said.
That's what we said.
Be
That's not
ready.
what we
I
said.
don't
I
think
just
we
said the
said.
season is average to slightly above average. I thought this episode, look, some of the things that you've called out before, this episode still falls into those traps. Let's just be honest.
Sure.
There's still some really, really, really heavy-handed political commentary in the show. And I'm wondering what the decision was to really lean into that stuff as much as they've been leaning into it. It's always been, like I said, around the edges of the show, but it's never been the
It's
actual meat
ham-fisted
of it.
here.
Now it is just such an overbearing part of it. Like the woke song at the beginning, the
Yeah.
puppets were funny, but like the Antifa stuff, the calling, all of that stuff is just, it's a little over the top. Like
Yeah.
even when the Deep is talking to her, it's like, oh, Me Too is over. You guys lost the whole 9. What are you gonna say, Jomi?
Like, so there's a joke when they're talking about Cameron dying and they do the little like vaccine. Like, it's just like a really quick.
Yeah.
Like, that's like, that probably would have been more funny if like that was
like
That
the
was it.
most edgy it got, or like the most out there
Right? I'd
that
have been
joke
like,
would have had.
I get it.
Mhm.
But when you surround like the literally like insurrection,
a
January 6th,
puppet show about Antifa.
It's
and
like, brother, I watched the news. Like I got it.
Mhm.
I think that's the worst part of the season for me, frankly, is like just
they keep hammering
it. It's like, brother, I
like
live
the Marvel jabs were at least fun.
Yeah,
kinda,
like,
Do you
but, like,
think it's just because I even felt this way where it wasn't political, but the web weaver shit when he was just like, it got to a point when he kept shitting the webs where it was just like, I was like, all right. I was like, enough.
Yeah.
Like, it does seem like the show is getting to this point where it's like wowed us and grossed us out and done shit that we just never had seen before in superhero stuff for years. And this season especially feels like them being like, how can we top ourselves?
Yeah, don't you remember when like oh my God, what was the big event in season 3?
Herogasm?
Herogasm. Like that was like its red wedding in some ways, where we're like, oh my God, this was the craziest thing that this show could ever think of. And it was supposed to be this like perfect apex moment of like meeting the juvenile edgelordy moments of the boys, both in the comic and the show, to where the full satire of what it's actually going for meet.
Yeah.
Like the gross out and all of these things are welcome and we can accept that and have a good time with it. Now we're like, I feel like we're doing this for the sake of just being edgy or being biting or being like this way where you're like, okay, I guess.
To that point, this is the first episode I've ever had to like fast forward through a scene. I couldn't watch her get her leg sawed off.
That was tough.
It was tough.
Leg sawed off was nuts.
That was tough.
And I think I agree with everything that you guys are saying and that criticism for you as well. I think that they maybe miscalculated one thing. The Boys has reached, to your point, a spot where some of the stunts can't be topped.
Yeah.
The way that they can really end the show on a high is to deepen to Charles's point, which I don't think is a bad point at all, is to actually deepen the meaningfulness of the show. That's what they could do. But my point is they can only do that through their main characters. There's not going to be a character that's going to come on the show at this point in it that we're even going to be. Huey's mom popped in this show. Nobody cares.
Well, can I ask then why? Well, then why introduce a lot of these characters? Because if I'm being actually like positive about this episode,
because you got to change it up. Just simple.
Yeah,
it's the same reason why you drop a character. Same reason why the Avengers fight somebody different. Like in the comic books,
no,
like just because.
No, I get that, but
Yeah.
it's like it's taking away from moments where it's like I think the best part of this episode was the last scene with his like wife and then A-Train and kind of
That was really good.
Like realizing finally when he's talking about like, this took my grandfather, this took my father, I'm done with this. I was like, I love that scene because I was like, finally Mother's Milk kind of gets to say like the quiet part out loud, which is like, why are we doing this? Like this cycle of like soups and like us fighting them. But where I felt like it fell flat wasn't even in the acting or the writing. It was like, well, of course Mother's Milk is going to go back to the boys. Where it's like, that seemed like something, honestly, you save for the last season. Because now I'm just like, well, he's going to go back to the boys. And now we're going to have a whole nother season probably of him being like, should I be with my family? Should I not? And I'm like, that's the stuff where I'm just like, oh, we have a whole nother season of this. Same thing with kind of where Frenchie is, where it's like Frenchie is coming to terms with like who he was and all the killing he's done. And him and Kimiko have this really, really heartwarming scene where she's just like, yo, I can relate to this. But there is a level of like, by the end, they're just like, hey, we're the boys. We've done more with less. We're all back together. And sure, we're doing it one more time. I just guess I have less patience, I think, because I know the end is coming. And if I'm being fair to the creators, I think that's always difficult. We experienced it with the Bear as well. I think when you know something is ending, you start getting a little antsy, feeling like, are they spinning their wheels? What is happening? Da-da-da-da. I know this is about to end. And this penultimate, I feel like other seasons, the penultimate was like, oh, it's going off. Anything can happen. It gave me that wow. And this just kind of gave me where I was like, oh, okay, sure. Yeah.
So this is where once again, I think this penultimate doesn't really stack up to past penultimates of the boys, just because I think that when you watch this one, this season hasn't been as good as past seasons. I thought that this was a good episode because it kind of reset a lot of things, and it reorganized the show a little bit. Probably too late. Probably too late. It probably reorganized. Like I said, this episode should have probably come a little bit. I actually feel the same way about the Acolyte. As a matter of fact, this episode should have probably come a little bit sooner, because we were getting to a point to where it seemed like a couple of things in the show weren't working, and to reorganize the show around the Starlight and Huey thing, which would have been super duper fucking interesting had it been done in episode 3 or 4.
Yeah.
Had it been done in episode 3 or 4, and we didn't know that Starlight was the actual Starlight, or she's chained up somewhere or whatever, and there's a mole inside of the boys, would have been a super fucking interesting thing. Now, maybe it lasts through the finale and then on into next season. We don't know what's going to happen, but that in and of itself is a perfect thing. But that might be something else to where they know they have another season and they're trying to give us a really interesting kernel or nugget to go into that season. The only thing I was saying was about this particular episode. I think we have different expectations about what we want from supporting characters in shows like this. To me, the way I look at it is this. If a lot of the reason why A-Train makes the change that he makes is because of his uncomfortability inside of Vought. A-Train as a character has been bought in at certain points. A-Train as a character has been removed away from the boys at certain points. He finally reached the level of uncomfortability to where he didn't feel safe inside of the 7 anymore. Safe. Not whether or not he was going to get the big movies or anything, he didn't feel safe, and that's because of Sage. It's because he couldn't feel safe around her because deep down, we know that she knew and he knew that she knew. So he couldn't feel, like he didn't feel safe around there anymore. He really felt like to a point, not that he just wanted to be a hero, he had to have another way out because there was somebody there that was smart enough to see through his bullshit and to see through the fact that he was cracking. So to me, if the character's kind of not in there, that turn from him doesn't make as much sense because he's done so much. Firecracker is just, to me, the way that we found out that Starlight had an abortion and all of that stuff, and somebody else that gets close to Homelander and is then disgusted by him because when she rips Web Weaver apart. So,
I don't know. I think the Sister Sage of it all is actually it was kind of intuitive because there's a scene in episode 3 where there's an alleged mole inside the what's it called? The analytics department or whatever. And as soon as she was like, yeah, I took a call with Starlight, boom, lasers her in the face. Right? And so Sage is like, well, if I start telling him like who I think the actual mole is, it's gonna kill A-Train. We need him to get information to the folks. We need to like be able to put people in position. If she's honest with them, he's gonna kill A-Train. That's gonna mess up the whole thing. I can't tell him. Now the show doesn't tell us that, right? We have to infer that, but I think they've done a better job at characterizing Sister Sage than you're giving it credit for. Although, it is kind of muddled. To your point, they don't tell you that, but I do think you can intuit this
It's tough to infer what the smartest person in the world is thinking unless you are explicitly shown that as the audience.
Yeah.
Because other than that, you kind of have to just guess what she's thinking.
Yeah.
Or just be surprised by what she comes up with.
In terms of her and A-Train?
No, in terms of just her plot in all of this.
Oh, because she's supposed to be too
intelligent. Honestly, because there was a point where like she walks in, she sees Firecracker and Homelander, and it's dawning on her that she's kind of like been pushed out.
Yeah, she's yeah.
And I'm like, yo, Sage, you're the smartest person in the world. A, you letting Firecracker run circles around you. And B, like you didn't realize at any given point, like, A, I don't know if she was lying or not, but I'm just like, if Homelander finds out that you was doing some shit under his nose, he's gonna be pissed off. Yeah. So like either you need to be more buttoned up. Like there's been, I'll put it to you this way. There has not been one plan that Sister Sage has had this entire season that has seemed like the smartest person in the world plan.
Hmm.
It has seemed like the dumbest person in the world plan. Like,
Unless it's some like late act reveal in the finale where they're like,
I-
aha, but my
I don't
plan
know,
really
man.
was
If you
yada
you
yada.
could get Greg Popovich to coach some fifth graders. They're not going to run the offense like they're supposed to,
Mhm.
right? It's just a whole bunch of idiots out there. Like, she can do whatever she can. I can put anybody in any position. If you don't got the brain sense to do what I tell you to do, it's not going to work.
and guess what? Some of the greatest coaches, they look at that team, they like, dog, I'm working with A-Train in the deep. They like, hey, Homelander, I can't do anything for you. Like,
Right.
that was my whole thing.
She wouldn't have been in the show. But I'll say this. The thing about Firecracker and Homelander is actually, and we can move on after this, we got to get to the Acolyte. But the thing about Firecracker and Homelander was actually really interesting to me. Do you know why? Because Firecracker appeals to something so basic in Homelander that it doesn't matter how smart Sage is.
Yeah.
I mean, and that's the thing, right? Like, the character of Homelander has such basic needs. It doesn't really matter how smart Sister Sage would have been. If you pop out the titties and you shoot the milk in his face, you got him.
Yeah.
Like, that was savvy by her. And it gets back to kind of the underlying theme of the show. The underlying theme of the show is that, like, all of this stuff is not as complicated or deep as what we make it. Even as Homelander is surrounding himself around sycophants, the reason is because he's desperately insecure, which obviously mirrors other people in politics. He desperately wants connection. He desperately wants to build a pseudo family of people who he feels like he can rely on and they'll be there for him. And if he can't do that, he'd rather just subjugate everybody else. I just spit all over the
I
table.
mean, if you're the smartest person in the world, if I'm Sister Sage, you know, you can't get some like MILFs with some nice titties in
You
there
hate
to
women.
just like be like,
We're gonna play.
what?
that.
I'm saying,
Drop
if
that.
you're trying to control Homelander,
Yeah.
I'll tell you what, though, one of the funny, and this, like, the show, I don't know if the show still has fastball, but one of the funniest things that happened in the episode is when Firecracker's like, you know, he's like, yeah, you gotta go. And she's like, you sure you don't want nothing? And he's got that look, he like,
He sits to the side.
I don't, maybe. And he's like, nah, that was funny. That they still got it sometimes. They
All
still
right.
got it.
We're out of Vought Tower.
Go to Brendog,
Back
baby.
on Brendog,
back on
baby.
Brendog.
baby.
It's time for the Acolyte. To begin our reactions, we once again bring you the Midnight Manifest. Chuck Wagon, take it away.
all right, this is your Midnight Manifest for the Acolyte choice, directed by Kogonada, written by Charmaine Degrade, Jen Richards, and Jasmine Flournoy. If I got any of those wrong, I'm sorry, guys. Much respect to you. But in a flashback episode on Brendok, we learn that Sol, Indara, Torben, and Kanaka were investigating a Vergence, a powerful massive force that has helped life thrive on Brendok after a hyperspace accident. When Sol finds the Covenant twins, he senses that Osha is meant to be his Padawan, but the Jedi Council deems the girls too old. The Jedi discover that the twins' midichlorian count is absurdly high, and along with some other space shenanigans, it's revealed they're artificially created beings, or one consciousness split into two people. Torben, obsessed with leaving Coruscant, races to the Covenant encampment, realizing that the twins are his key to the Council letting the Jedi leave Brendok. Sol follows the young Jedi, hell-bent on saving the twins. A fight ensues where Sol kills Aleya. The witches take over Kalnaka and have him fight his allies before dying for some odd reason. And Sol, faced with only being able to save one of the twins, decides to save Osha. Indara tells the other Jedi they should keep what really happened on Brendok from the Council to save Osha, the heartache. And that's been your Midnight Manifest for the Acolyte.
Let's get to it. Thoughts? This was a very divisive one in the Ringerverse group chat.
Yeah.
In a vacuum, if we're just talking about the 43 minutes of television, I liked it. I liked it. I thought the action, like the show,
Cool.
whoever's doing the lightsaber action,
Great.
like put them in charge.
Mm-hmm.
Like
You got
even,
it, buddy.
Like, you got like Torben doing a thing with the arrows, that was
And
fire. And then the fight, the choreography is hidden, right?
Right.
Then then you gotta like outside the 43 minutes when you think about the show
Mm-hmm.
and the context, like this being episode 7, it's not really what it's supposed to be. It's not really doing what it's supposed to do,
Right.
unfortunately. I think, we could talk about like a bigger picture later, but just this being a rehash of episode 3, with like a different perspective for things like we kind of figured already. Like they do have like the moment of Sol choosing Osha over May.
Right.
I think it's important, but I kind of feel like you could have just like put that in another episode.
We-
and called it. You know what I mean? But at the end of the day, it did cool things. But with all the context, probably not the episode you want to have be the second to last one.
Yeah. I'll probably be a little bit lower on this episode. I think my biggest problem with this, and probably the series as a whole so far, is structure. Because this episode, probably of the actual plot developments that needed to happen, or at least needed to be shown to us as an audience, I think 30% of it needed to be there, and then the rest of it didn't.
Yeah.
To know that this is what Soul is just telling May as she is held captive on his ship, we know a good 50 to 60% of this story already, because we saw it 3 episodes prior. And the context of which Soul is narrating this story seemingly is painting him in a disastrous light, which is interesting.
Yeah.
But the effect of which needs to be him telling this story in context to May. But us as an audience is only observing it from, okay, 3 episodes prior, here's the other side of this coin that we had seen 45 minutes of already, more or less. The fights were cool. That's been the consistent throughout the entire series. That's really great. I think that Soul painted as, to me, an obsession with OSHA that really weirds me out to an uncomfortable degree, is interesting, but could have been done way, way better.
Charles,
Charles?
you want to go or you want? So, first of all, I want to give the creators of the show props for having the balls to do, in this climate, to do the cops accidentally killing somebody.
Okay.
I thought you said
Here's the thing. Hold on.
I want to give.
That takes balls.
I want to give the creators, because there was nobody in the writers' room that went, nah, man.
Yeah,
Shoot
we
first,
can't.
ask questions later.
To think they're gonna love this.
We can't do, Ferguson on Brenda. You know what I'm saying? When I first saw it, I was like, fuck, that's a tough one.
What was the fucking photo of the black kid crying and hugging the fucking cop? That was this episode.
Yeah.
That was literally this episode.
Wow, man.
So
I don't know if we can.
It was, I'll just be honest with you. There's no way for me to watch that whole episode and go, yo, the cops came to the place. One cop had it on his mind, but he was preoccupied and he ended up killing somebody that wasn't doing nothing.
A black woman.
A black woman. There's no way for me not to look at it that way.
Yeah.
Okay? There's no way.
It's really bad for Soul.
Right. Okay.
It's real bad.
Now, I'll say this. We've talked about the Make It or Break It episode of
It was we. It was you. That's all you.
a lot of people have. But we've talked about the Make It or Break It episode for the Acolyte. And I do think this was it, and I think it's a break it, right?
Yeah.
However, I do think that this was a good episode. I do. I think this. I enjoyed the episode.
Yeah.
I enjoyed the episode. This is what I would say. The fact that this episode didn't hit is more of an indictment on the entire show than it is this one particular episode, like Jomi said.
I will agree
Because, number one, we had to go back to Brenda, and we had to spend a whole episode on Brenda because we had to see what we did.
What? No.
We did.
No, we didn't.
We did.
I don't know if I had to spend a whole episode.
No,
we
didn't.
did. We did.
No.
We had we had to, because we had to see everything that happened from the Jedi's perspective.
Yeah.
Because remember, 3 of those Jedi are dead.
Uh-huh.
And we have to see why they died. We have to see why it was okay to kill. The first thing that happens in this show is Andor dies, Torben dies, and Kelnaka dies, right? That's like what gets the show cranked off. May kills 2 of them. Kind of kills Torben, but basically does. May kills 2 of them. And our relationship with May at this point is still sort of ambiguous. It's still, May is not a villain. May is not a hero. In Star Wars lore, almost anybody that's ever killed a Jedi is a villain. But this show is asking you to not look at her like that.
Right.
We got to know why, right? And the only way that we can know why is to get into the heads of the Jedi, why they're there, why they approached, how all of this happened, what Torben did, what Andor did, what Soul did. Why you have to spend a lot of time there, or else it doesn't make any sense to have led the show with the deaths of these characters. And just to show it in clips, oh, this is what Kanaka did, this is what else, it doesn't paint a full picture. We had to go back there. The question is, almost like The Boys, did we have to go back there in this way this late? Should it have come earlier? Or could they have spliced it in throughout the entire season?
Yes.
Maybe. But I think the questions that needed to be answered were too robust not to have relitigated that episode in a full episode on Brenda. Because the witches do stuff in this situation that we didn't even know they could do. Like when Torben gets taken over or whatever happens, that's a split-second scene in the other one.
Right.
And to know everything that had happened there, and to know that scene makes sense once you see that Kelnaka goes completely crazy at the end and attacks everyone. And so to me, that episode had to happen like that. Yeah. Like you had to have it, but the question is, should it have come sooner?
What are we doing here? Like, no, absolutely not. This is, sorry if I'm going to be long-winded, this is a 10-episode series. So to devote 2 episodes, 1/5 of your season to flashbacks, both of the flashbacks are essentially the same place, relitigating what we had already seen, I think is a massive gamble. I think the way that the characters acted, the choices that they made in this episode, I was confused. There was a point when Soul stabs Anastasia where I was like, wait, did I miss something? Like I was like, wait, what's happening right now?
Those are 2 separate criticisms, though.
No, I'm going down all my criticisms.
Yeah.
So like my criticism is structurally, that was the first one. Like having 2 flashbacks that are depicting the same thing is just like, for that to work, you have to be firing on all cylinders, which this episode wasn't. The characters are making decisions, or even the way they're blocked and shot, where I was just like, wait, but why? Torben's whole thing about like, I want to leave. I want to go back to Coruscant. Motherfucker, you've been on this planet for 7 weeks. What is happening right now? When he hops on the speeder and just races away, I'm just like, I don't know enough about Torben to understand this, but he seems like an idiot, and this seems like something that, like, I know Padawan are supposed to be in training, but once again, why is he making this decision?
Yeah.
Even with the witches, you're telling me that all of these witches, we don't know their powers, and nothing has been explained about this world, about their culture. I'm in the fucking dark. You're telling me it takes all of these witches' powers to take over Chewbacca, and then Indar comes over, and she's like, whoa, 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 and they all just die, and no one says anything.
She had done whoa, whoa, whoa.
And even thematically, to your point, it takes a lot, like, and I'm being so harsh because I've seen stuff on this show where I'm like, the creators are way too talented. I've seen ideas that they've had that I'm just like, this has potential. But thematically, for you to basically do a cops kill innocent story, or honestly, a colonialism story of like these people in power coming to a planet, not realizing that the planet is inhabited, meeting this culture that they don't understand. Everybody dies, doing the Sophie's choice of it all. You know what I'm saying? Maybe I was clued into this more because like I worked in like the charter school system that was serving Black and brown kids. So I saw how people would treat, let's say, Black kids, where it's like, Indara sees the mark on one of them. He's like, oh, what's that mark? Da-da-da-da. And then you see the other one who has the potential, who wants to be a Jedi, who wants to be this, and Soul come and be like, I'm going to save you. You have more potential. And I'm sorry, sacrifice. Like, all of these things, these are weighty, 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 weighty topics. for you to introduce all of this late, and they had been teasing a little bit like this, you just have to pull it off. And I just feel like a lot of the story decisions were rushed and sloppy, and I'm like, you guys are better than this.
Would you agree? Would you agree that a lot of the themes that the show is presenting at least are worthwhile and on paper work in the context of all of these?
Worthwhile and work, but it's like the rest of the season has not done enough work for y'all to be able to pull some of this shit off.
And I don't know. I mean, yeah, probably. But to your point of like characters making bad decisions, I mean, that's how these things happen.
No,
right?
not bad decisions. Characters making nonsensical decisions or decisions where I'm like
that we aren't informed by why they made them.
Yeah, like Soul. Like we see who Soul is as an older man, right? And we see the type of like decisions he makes, how important the Padawans are. But even less, he has a new Padawan, the girl that just
Jackie.
died.
Yeah,
Jackie.
Jackie.
23. If this motherfucker loves his Padawan so much, I haven't seen him shed one tear for homegirl. And meanwhile, we turn back and all of a sudden it's like...
He's a Jedi.
And he was pretty bent up, like you killed a child, like you know what I mean, like.
But he's a Jedi. He's not supposed to like.
But he's not supposed to form attachments.
He's clearly driven by his emotions and attachments from the beginning of this show.
Even
he's the most emotional Jedi we've ever met.
He's making decisions where I'm just like, we have not spent enough time with young Soul for me to be like, oh, he's doing all of this because he just really, really wants a Padawan.
This is my
what
deal.
Is happening?
This is my deal. The thing with Soul and his connection to Osha, that is absolutely odd.
Yeah,
like it was
really
just like it was just
off to me.
It's not. I don't want to make it.
I know, but like,
but
it's to the degree that all of these bad decisions happen.
He feels, and you also have to remember something else. There are a couple of things here that I don't feel like the show did well enough, like explaining their specific power in the Force. Like they represent a Virgins. They are specific Force creatures. Mm-hmm. So his connection to her might be kind of artificial.
Yeah.
It might be more about not who she is, but what she is. Mm-hmm. The fact that she has such a high metachlorine count, the fact that she is a specific Force being, he might be feeling pulled. And to be honest with you, what we've seen in Soul moving in the past is that there is some darkness in him.
Yeah.
So there is a passion in him that we've seen reflected in these prior episodes. And I think the push-pull between Soul and Andara is Andara saying, hey, yeah, you feel this connection to this person. These two kids are special in what they are. But it doesn't matter.
Mm-hmm. Don't mistake that for their needs.
Yeah, like
was that
they want.
Well written enough and well acted enough. And this is like, these are great actors. Like, cause like I left that, I was just like, wait,
I'm not holding any water from the show. Like if it didn't work, it didn't work. And it kind of doesn't work. But the only reason why I feel like it doesn't work is because there was a tone that this show was supposed to strike and it's never really gotten there.
Yeah.
Like, and so
it's flirted with it several times.
There was a tone only when Manny Jacinto was on screen.
Yeah, which is crazy. He's not in this episode.
But he was never, but here's the thing. He was never going to be. I
get it, but
the
like
show,
after episode 4 and episode 5 and episode 6, we're like, we're feeling
but he was,
like,
but the thing, he was, that's why he was never going to be in the episode on Brendock. He wasn't there.
Yeah, but
he
also,
was never going to be there.
If we're talking about what the show is doing then, why we have gotten to the point where Osha and May damn near have, especially Osha, hasn't done shit. So you're sidelining your protagonist in the penultimate episode. Manny, who is like, comes in and gives the show so much force and weight. I'm now like looking around, be like, what the fuck does this motherfucker have to do with any of this? Like, it's like,
well, you'll find out next. You find out in the next episode.
To wait that long, though.
Yeah, like, but why should I care at this point?
If you don't care, this is the point that I'm trying to make.
Right.
The point that I'm trying to make is if you are going to do the show, in my opinion, it's trying to have its cake and eat it too. It's dipping its toe into the waters of being a sexier show, a more sinister show, a show that shows you dead Jedi, a show that shows you a seductive scene between a Sith Lord or a Sith apprentice or whatever he is, and his prospective apprentice, a show that shows you that type of sexual energy that goes to the next level. That's a little bit more violent, that's a little bit more sensual, that deals in passion and betrayal and all of that.
Yeah.
It's trying to be that and still be a kid's show. And still be a show that appeals to the 4 quadrants of the Star Wars audience. That, to me, is the mistake or the inconsistency that's stopping it from being accessible either one way or the other. If you look at it, you have a hot guy coming out of a thing, he's naked, that's a different Star Wars show, where all of these Jedi are being killed. Like, we've seen so many dead Jedi. That's a different Star Wars show, to where it's a sleek noir murder mystery where you don't know who to trust. That's different. You can't play that with the same sparkle in the eye that a lot of the other Star Wars content comes with. Yeah. And so I think that this episode that had a lot of cool shit in it, that had cool fights, fights.
Yeah. No, when the Kermah fight was bad.
Okay, you don't like Star Wars, but like it's
objectively cool.
That was objectively cool. It's fine.
It was goofy.
It
felt goofy.
You don't like Star Wars.
When the Kermah suit, even the way he was moving, everything, I was just like, all right, come on with the CW nonsense, bro. Like, come on.
So what I'm saying, but to this point though, it's got to feel more evil. It's got to feel more sinister. And that's the tone that the show has never been able to strike.
And it can't make up its mind about the show that it's trying to be, because every other episode we're doing something else.
But this is the criticism with all of this stuff except for Andor. Andor said, fuck it, it's depressing. It's not for everybody. I mean, it did.
No, yeah.
It said, fuck it, it's depressing. It's not going to be bright. There's not going to be no lightsabers. No one's coming to save you, and your main character, you saw him die. So that's the only show that's been, fuck it.
No, because I think that's unfair, where it's like, we've gotten shows like a Loki or a Mandalorian where it's very much, they're like, hey, if it's Mandalorian, this is a monster, not a monster of the week, but this is a very
Mandalorian's for kids, bro.
Huh?
Mandalorian's for kids.
No, it is. But I'm saying
it knows what it is.
It knows what it is.
Yeah.
Loki to me isn't necessarily for kids, but they definitely sat down and being like, okay, this is the show that we're making, and we're not going to deviate from that, and it's not going to be for everyone. Where to your point, I agree with you, where this is, I'm like, it doesn't know if it wants to be a kid show, a murder mystery show, a very sexy thriller type show.
So what are you disagreeing with though?
I'm more so, I think that you like this episode in a vacuum, which is fine. But to me, this episode does not make sense. And I saw a lot of people complaining about this, where it's like, why would you just rehash a bunch of shit that we already know? I think that is something where it's like, for a mystery.
Yeah, if this episode was just Soul telling this story and you saw maybe a scene or two from his perspective, and then May is challenging him about this narrative and saying, no, you fucked up this. That didn't happen this way. This is what I saw.
It's the same episode.
It isn't, but it's the fact that this is all hearsay from somebody else's perspective from a thing that we saw 3 episodes prior.
And there's only 30, there's a lot of the scenes are already scenes that we've already seen, but they're from Soul's perspective, which I'm like, that's a choice, but that's not that interesting to watch. It's okay.
But do you know why that's not interesting to watch? It's not. It's done all the time. The only reason why it's not interesting to watch is because it's not about this episode in and of itself, because the Torben scene is totally new. Them being
what they're there for.
Them being on the planet totally new. Canon totally new. Almost nothing that happens in the Brendock episode happens again. Nothing. When you really look at it. Even the part where she sets the fire, you don't really even see it. She comes out, and then you see from her point of view, how he kills their mom. All of that stuff, not in the episode. Almost everything that happens is totally new. The only reason why it doesn't really work is because, if we're being honest, the show hasn't hit. The episode falls into the same pit that the show does. It's not quite sinister enough. It's not quite devastating enough. You didn't leave the episode, and they thought that it was. When I'm serious. When this episode ends, there is kind of a silence coming out, and then it drops that awesome kind of a banger song.
It's a great song.
Like
Janelle
kind of,
Monáe, right?
like who is that? Who's that song?
I think it was Janelle Monáe.
Yeah, it drops kind of a banger song. You can tell they thought this was their Empire Strikes Back moment. They thought this was, oh shit, we fucked them up with this one.
Mm-hmm.
But the thing is, they more scratched than itch, right? Because we wanted to know what happened on Brendock. But once we knew, it was kind of like, all right.
Right.
But is the central mystery that has been driving the season interesting enough? And that's what I kept asking myself, because when you do that thing where it's like, we're not going to tell you yet, and you wait until the penultimate episode, the mystery needs to be interesting enough. And at this point, the mystery,
Victoria Monet.
The mystery that they revealed isn't even like, all right, you're not really saying anything that wild about the Jedi, because I'm just like, was this a mistake that the Jedi made, or was this a mistake that 2 or 3 idiot Jedi made? Like even the reveal of the witches, where it's like, all right, if you're going to go back to Brendock, make me care about the witches. Teach me something new about their culture. Like, I want to know about their powers, everything. There was even this kind of sinister moment where May is talking about how her mother has taught her about, like, sacrifice. And what I thought is, I'm just like, oh, are they sacrificing these children for some reason? Because the witches are all like...
Well, the best perspective that you got on that was in episode 3, was from the kids' perspective.
Yeah, it seems
with their
like
culture.
If episode 3 didn't do the witches' culture for you, then it wasn't going to happen.
I mean, but here's the thing. The witches are doing this thing in the episode where they're like, oh, and then like they just drop dead. And I was like...
I just like that they mentioned the Great Hyperspace Disaster. That's some deep legend shit right there.
Yeah.
I'm glad you had that, man.
It's fun.
Recanonization.
Like all of the
this is why we can't have anything nice in Star Wars.
Legends came out of all of the chips in hyperspace came out of hyperspace at the same time.
There's some glub shit. Like, come on, bro.
It's fun. It's fun to me.
But
I mean, look, once again, when I watched the episode, I was like, hey, it was fun. I had fun, but then I was like, oh man, the Acolyte's not gonna get there, is it? But to be honest with you, we all knew that the Acolyte wasn't gonna get there. The Acolyte,
I don't know. Hope springs eternal. First of all,
wait. Look, I just be honest with you. There's still a finale to come. The Acolyte has been just fine, right? The Acolyte has been just fine. And it's not a show that the failing of the show will be that in the end, it wasn't good enough to justify it being made. But I'll say this about the Jedi. The Jedi in the show have been so dysfunctional prior to this, and they've almost been plot device. The Jedi in this show haven't succeeded at anything.
I think we might have to have a come to Jesus moment with the Jedi at this point, and they just might have always sucked at all points in time.
Oh, I believe that. I'd be down for that.
Accept every time we see a Jedi on screen, they're gonna do some they gonna mess up.
The separation of church and state. We got to get them out of politics.
Because at this point, like from the prequels, and then they pretty much don't exist in the other films. Clone Wars, in this, where every time Jedi show up,
if Skywalker doesn't become a Jedi, the Resistance doesn't win the Galactic.
Yeah, I mean, shout out to Luke for doing what he can, but I mean, prior to that, it's just all been like every single time they gonna mess around and do something dumb, and we got to go around like, nah, but the Jedi were cool.
Thousands of years, they just peace in the galaxy. Just saying. To me, as a Star Wars purist. There was. I mean,
I don't
like to me as a Star Wars.
Who told you that story? Was it the Jedi?
As a Star Wars purist,
was that the Jedi propaganda?
As a Star Wars purist, I do think that we're starting to over litigate whether or not the Jedi are good or bad or whatever. Because right now, it really seems like it's almost better to be a Sith. It seems like Sith have more fun. I might get shirts
made. This is the most frustrating thing for me about the entirety of this show, is because every time it just scratches the surface of an amazing idea that could be put forward in Star Wars, it loses its focus and tries to do something else. And then it just kind of gets there, and then it's undercutting itself.
Guys, this show as it was pitched to us, was supposed to be about how the Sith basically rose up while the Jedi were not paying attention. And so far through 9 episodes, I'm like, not only is that not
only
what
been-
this
it's
show
only been
is
7.
about,
It's only been 7 episodes.
7,
Yeah.
whatever. You're telling me this episode, like you're telling me just this series is as interesting as that log line.
No.
That's not the specific log line that it was, but like we're supposed to see, this is supposed to be the first Sith in ages.
Mm-hmm.
And so far, we've gotten like some flashbacks to Brendock and like fucking our main character not doing shit, and then one really, really good episode with a Sith.
We'll always have 5 and 6 episodes. 5 and 6.
Yeah, I'll say 2 great episodes.
But once again, though,
we'll always have.
once again, when you look back, I personally think that there's a constant here.
Okay.
The constant is too much story for a movie and not enough story for a series. And they need to choose one sometimes.
Yeah.
If you're looking at Ahsoka, it seems like Ahsoka would have made a kick-ass movie.
Yeah.
But,
Oh, yeah.
But when you extrapolate Ahsoka over X amount of episodes, you go, I don't know, man. Like, I don't know if the highs of this have me coming back to it every week. Even if it was a movie that was just for Disney Plus. And with this one, also, it seems as if this might have made a decent movie if they could have distilled this down into something they could have told in 2:15 or 1:45 or 2 hours. Over the course of, because then if you do that, you don't need a whole episode to go back.
Exactly.
You can play. If you do that, things pop a little
concentrated.
bit more, and you can get a little bit crazier, right? To me, when you look at it, there's a similar feeling, even going back to Mando season 3, to where on a lot of these Star Wars situations, a lot of these Star Wars projects, they just don't have enough story. They don't have
It's diluted.
enough story.
Also, but I
Stepping on
think
the
the
product?
other thing that I'm realizing is their ambitions in TV are too, like, it's similar to your point, are too big for TV, where it's just like Ahsoka, you got Ezra coming back, you're introducing all the rebel shit, you got what's his face, blue motherfucker, I'm blanking.
Thrawn.
Thrawn. Introducing Thrawn on a TV show to me is hard in terms of like live action and everything that Thrawn means to the fans. And I think similarly with the Acolyte, you being like, we are going to show you how the Sith rose up. I'm like, I don't know how you're going to do that on TV. And so far, they haven't done that yet. And I sometimes wish that I'm like, either tell a smaller, more contained story that you can pull off, or if you're trying to tell like this generation spanning story that's going to mean something important to all of Star Wars and its legacy and everything, motherfucker, don't put that shit on Disney Plus. It's like,
yeah. I mean, look, the Disney Plus experiment, and we could go even to the MCU for this. The Disney Plus experiment, maybe we'll have a longer conversation about this, is it's such a mixed bag with all of the stuff that we've gotten. And the only things that have really worked are things that are sequels to stuff that we've really already gotten.
and characters that we already
Already
and
know.
we love.
Like WandaVision works because we're
Loki.
invested. Loki works. The Mandalorian did work.
Yeah.
I'll give that one credit.
Andor.
Andor worked. But we're getting thrown back into these worlds that we've kind of already been familiar with, creating new worlds in these situations. Although I will give Loki some credit for creating a new world, even though we did have Loki around. Yeah. Creating new worlds seems to be hard for some of these creators. And, you know, it might be that not our expectations, it might be that we're used to watching television in one way and they're giving it to us in another way.
This is my last question for you.
Mhm.
Do you think that part of this just on the Star Wars front is, I want to be real. Like, we bring up Andor a lot, and I do think sometimes it's unfair because it's like
It's always unfair.
most people are not Tony Gilroy has enough cachet in the industry where he can walk into a place and be like, take it or leave it. I'm doing what I fucking want.
Mhm.
Where it's like Leslie Headland, like, she's done a lot. I don't know if she's given the Tony Gilroy treatment where it's just like, so my question for you, do you think that Star Wars is almost hamstrung by the Acolyte can't be fully what it wants to be. It can't be as sexy as it wants to be. It can't be as sinister. It can't push the story as far as it wants to. Because I feel like this about a lot of the series that they create, where I'm like, even Obi-Wan, it's like there was stuff in Obi-Wan that we liked, but it could never really be the thing that we all wanted it to be because I think internally they're still really, really gun shy. They're scared. They'd rather give us something that is middling to just okay versus something that is like either super amazing and blows our minds, but is risky, or is risky in the other way and we all hate it. They'd rather give us the middle.
Here's the thing about Obi-Wan.
That should have been a movie.
Obi-Wan should have been a movie, number one.
Yes.
There was no story to tell.
Yes.
It's also true.
Okay. That's the thing with Obi-Wan. Sometimes there's no story to tell, right? There was no story to tell with Obi-Wan. So Obi-Wan just got lazy. I like as much as anyone, I like playing the hits. I like Darth Vader capturing ships.
Of course.
I like Darth Vader. But Obi-Wan didn't have a real story to tell.
If we're going here, I could argue that 90% of what they've made in the Disney Plus era, there's not enough story to tell.
Just depends on which parts of it you feel like you want to know more about, huh? I mean, here's the thing about Boba Fett, and I'll be honest. It's a story you think that you want, right? Even Solo is a story that you think that you want.
And then when you get it, you're like,
Well, you got to execute, right? And like
anything could be good.
You got to execute. It's a story you think that you want. Quiet Place Day One, very much easier, much easier, right? You know, do you want to know what happened the first day? The fucking blind aliens that cruise on asteroids that came here. Do you want to know what happened the first day? You don't think it matters, but it kind of does. When you leave the movie, you go, oh, wow, well, I'm deeper in this world now because I know how things got popping off. I know how things happened.
And it was a good story, first and foremost.
Almost no story.
Right, but it was good. It was done well.
But Hollywood's in a prequel trap. Like Star Wars especially is in a prequel trap where it's just like, we're going to tell you everything that happened before this more interesting thing. And I'm just like, prequels are hard to pull off because I'm just like, 9 times out of 10, whatever you show me on screen is going to be way less cool than what I thought about.
Let me ask you a question.
Yes.
What are you interested? I think everyone should answer this question.
Okay.
What are you interested in knowing about Star Wars right now?
I can't. Well, here's the thing. I thought that I didn't need to know about Cassian Andor's origin story. And then we got Andor. I didn't think I needed to see some nondescript Mandalorian-looking dude until we got the Mandalorian. Anything that they give us that is good and we can deem that like is worthwhile can be worthwhile. We can be given the Acolyte and it could match all of our expectations and we could love it if it's done well. Book of Boba Fett, same thing. All of those things. If it's worthwhile, it should be good.
Yeah, we don't know what we want until it's given to us.
I know what I want.
No, but like, I mean, how many times, like, I guess it's hard.
Yeah, you want the Ahsoka thing. You want the great origin story.
Yeah,
you would love to
like,
see so-and-so as a kid.
How many great TV shows and films where you're sitting there, you're watching it, and you're like, oh, I'm watching something special for the first time.
Yeah.
Right?
It's not common.
It's not common.
No.
You know, so to expect, like, man, this shit is gonna change my life. It's not, we're not getting, you know, it's not sitting down watching Game of Thrones episode 9 for the first time.
Right.
It's not watching Reigns of Castamere for the first time. Like, just not how these things go usually.
But even Game of Thrones shit the bed.
You know,
and look where
you know
it got us.
It's like you're not going to theater watching The Godfather Part 1, Part 2.
Sure.
You know what I mean? Like, so for all these properties, I'm gonna be there, but at the end of the day, if they not, you know, if it's not the end, if they're not changing the wheel, if not reinventing the wheel, it's not the end of the world.
Right.
Like they have to show me something before I'm like, yeah, that's what I'm talking about, baby.
Yeah, but here's
That's
the
what it
thing.
is.
It's like, I don't think it's actually, I think it's hard to make this shit. I will always tell. It's like, it's hard to make it. Like, I could see how much they're sweating on the Acolyte, being like, half of this is just like making basically like 3 movies is always just going to be difficult.
Yeah.
But I do think that I don't feel over at Star Wars or Marvel, any of the creatives feel empowered enough for me to see their vision. The Acolyte seems like half of someone's vision. It seems like you were bringing this up. I want the version of the Acolyte that's on 100, is as sexy as it thinks it is as sinister as it thinks it is. Same thing with Boba Fett. If you're gonna make a crime boss show, make a fucking crime boss show. Don't like half step and do the da-da-da-da-da. Like give like make like
Rangers.
Or the 2 episodes of Mandalorian in that show?
Like
No.
that?
You know, like if you're doing an Ahsoka show, do the Samurai Ahsoka show. Do the Ahsoka the White.
It's a lot of half measures coming out of it.
Yeah, it's a lot of like, they get right up to the point where they're about to try something new and they're like, we're going to anger too many people. And I'm just like, anger them. It does not matter.
You got 2
The
gun shy
fans-
from Last Jedi.
was about to say.
For real. Like, Last Jedi pissed too many people off. Solo pisses off too many people. And we don't get Star Wars
fans are
movies
always
anymore.
pissed off. They're
No,
always pissed off.
no,
But you
no.
need
I
them.
do-
Okay, so this is what I'll say. To me, Andor is not about casting Andor's origin story. It's not.
No.
So the Empire is the worst thing in the world. They're terrible, and we learned this. Let's say you had only watched the movies, you really wouldn't know why they were that bad.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, if you had just watched the movies, you'd see, hey, Darth Vader's an asshole, and Palpatine is an asshole, but you never really talk to like regular people.
Yeah.
So you really wouldn't know like what was so bad about the Empire. And even moving forward, when you're talking about different stuff, you know that they're bad because they got red lightsabers and because they choke people out.
Yes, and use lightning.
And they use lightning. So you know that they're evil and they want to have power and all of that stuff. You know that that's bad. If you read a lot of Star Wars, comic books, EU, books, other stuff like Legends, all that stuff, even canon stuff.
Yeah.
Then you would know some of the stuff that was going on.
Yeah.
Right? You know some of that stuff. But it's on the screen. How bad is the Empire? To me, the first property that gives you that knowledge is Andor. It answers a fundamental question in Star Wars lore. What was so fucking bad about these guys? And then you see a dude who's on a fucking planet trying to get away from some shit, is incarcerated with no trial, put in a terrible fucking futuristic prison, and then made to build parts for the Death Star just because they needed the labor. You see authoritarian police state rule. You see it, you feel it, you smell it. Like, that answers a fundamental, even, it's not just about fun. It's like, well, shit, somebody had to put a stop to this shit.
Yeah.
Like you and even when Skarsgård gives his whole deal, you go, yeah, it don't matter what you got to do. Someone had to stop that. And it actually makes the Hoth battle and Jedi and Empire. It makes all of that stuff better. Even if not a ton of people watched Andor, like it wasn't the biggest deal. It makes the rest of it better because it deepens your understanding of it. You're like, shit, man. And not only that, but it gives agency to people who didn't have no special powers. And to people who weren't around people that had special powers. It gives more agency to them. Now, if you read a lot of Star Wars, you might be familiar with all of those stories. That's why this story works.
But also what Andor does is something so simple. When Andor's like, we're going to prison for like 2 or 3 episodes, it's like a prison movie. Even structurally, everything that they're doing, you're getting those pleasure centers of like, I've watched so much prison content. This is like, these are kind of like the beats that you just need to hit. Or aesthetically, this is how it needs to look. Take something like The Acolyte, where it's like, we've always been like, what's the tone? What's this? Because then some Muppet shit happens.
Because it doesn't know what it wants to be.
And I think that's like, even with the Boba Fett show, when we were making fun of the Power Rangers, where it's like, if you're presenting the Boba Fett show as he's trying to be a crime boss, then everybody who's working on that show, like tonally and thematically and like the cinematography, visuals, everything has to be like, all right, are we making sure the audience like knows this is a crime show? It's mature enough. It's that. And I think a lot of this Star Wars content isn't even doing the simple thing where it's like, all right, we are telling a prison story, we're telling a crime story, we're telling a murder mystery. And at every single point being like, are we hitting this? Because a lot of times it's like, all right, now we're just going to throw in some shit for the fans. So, like, even if they're mad at us, it'll be like, oh, hey, Bubble Guts, motherfucker, they just name dropped him. I love this shit.
Once again, I think more of it has to do
That's the
with...
most dangerous bounty hunter in the galaxy.
I know.
Bubble Guts.
I think more of it just has to do with just a little bit of half-stepping. Just tell your story. And at this point, there's really not much to lose because none of it's really working anyway. So it's like, at this point, just do some crazy shit.
Yeah, man.
Like just do the shit.
Star Wars vampires. Let's go.
Just do something. Star Wars time travelers.
Yeah, man.
Oh, that'd be nuts.
You know what I'm saying? But they don't ever want to do time travel.
Long time ago.
Break so many.
But here's the thing, too, and the Acolyte does do it. When Manny pops on the screen and he's flying, if we saw a flying motherfucker and that shit looked terrible, we'd all be like, fuck this show. But it didn't. It looked crazy.
Yeah.
We're just like, this is, and I'm like, oh, the show has that. That's why I'm probably so
Leia fly in The Last Jedi, right?
She was in space, though.
Oh, it's different when
that
you
would, well,
I'm saying, so there's no gravity, so maybe she was just moving herself.
You're not flying it. You can't.
Just
you're
pull,
not
it's just
flying
pulling.
It, there's no gravity.
Interesting.
Yeah.
You can only
Interesting.
fly when there's gravity, can't you?
Interesting.
Do you ever worry about gravity
None of that makes
just
any sense, by the way.
giving out?
No.
No.
Have you ever been thinking, like, why? Why does gravity work? Look at
We're
this.
on
Watch
vitamin
this.
number
Watch
7
this.
for
Watch this.
Van, by the way.
Look at that. What if one day,
It just didn't do
Why
that.
does a
How about we
fundamental law of
change
nature work?
this whole part? Gravity's not fucking real.
I mean, gravity
It was made by the white
All right,
man.
y'all trying
It
to
could-
wow.
y'all trying to
Here
go
we
viral.
But when you're anxious as a kid, this is the kind of stuff that would make my dad go, "What is wrong with that boy?"
Yeah.
Now I'd be like,
He's
I'd
asking
be
too many
walking
questions.
around. Yeah, I'd be walking around moping. Van, what's wrong with you? Dad, what if gravity give out? Like, look at you. Get your motherfucking ass in there and clean that room up talking about some fucking gravity. Crystal, get this boy a psychiatrist. Okay. We gotta go. Interesting, robust conversation. This was kind of a Midnight Men episode.
Yeah. People are going to be, they're like, fuck Charles. But a lot of people hated that.
no,
I was
no,
like,
they won't.
y'all are going,
These are two episodes that I don't think were very popular. And by the way, I get it. I just had to keep it real. I watched it twice and I didn't have a big problem with it, but I do understand why it didn't work. It's because the show's not totally working.
Yeah.
It's not.
Can't wait, guys. All laurels rest on next week. And we're gonna be live,
You can't,
baby.
no, I'm not doing this live.
Yeah.
That's fucked up that they turned Soul into Derek Chauvin though.
Oh,
Stop,
Oh,
dude.
right.
You've got. Come on, man. Let's get
Come
out
on.
of here.
We're not
We were
doing that.
almost out.
Let's get out of here, man.
Just saying.
Come on.
So he's never gonna recover. There's nothing he can do. Soul's cooked. I want to get Ben Crump out there. I think
All right, let's go.
I think
all this shit.
the
Don't-
galaxy need Ben Crump.
I think
Which
Don't
last
try.
match?
I'm not gonna explain what he said, but it's kind of crazy. That whole thing was, man. You know, I saved Ocean instead of May. My chest. I did a bad thing, brother. You just murdered an innocent woman.
Yeah,
And
for
also,
real.
Why couldn't
by the
he-
way, you're
this is
telling the
just
story
like a-
to the woman you chose not to
I
say
hate
it.
Cinema Sins. Why couldn't he was like holding up both of the bridges?
Didn't have enough power in the force.
Clearly,
I was just like, why couldn't he just like
It
hold
wasn't-
up Ocean and May with the force?
Probably
This is that same
also
question. It's like, what makes Superman fly faster?
also probably was a little disconnected from the force
because he was wild.
because he was wilding. It's probably all the same reason why he couldn't tell that it was May and not OSHA at first because he was
This
disconnected from the
motherfucker
force.
was reading minds from miles away in this episode. I'm like, you can't tell which one is OSHA and May?
Couldn't do it.
Couldn't do it. Wasn't locked in.
Couldn't do it.
Real dumb.
Had to be locked. It wasn't locked in.
Couldn't do any of it. Ended up fucking up the whole thing. So one of the worst Jedi.
Also,
top five. Next episode, we're gonna do top 5 worst Jedi.
I mean, how much time do
Soul
we have?
Like, we're
Soul
gonna
is up there, bro.
Yeah.
He let May die.
It's crazy. That's a wrap. Every Tuesday and Thursday, House of R will deep dive into House of the Dragon and Acolyte. Every Monday, the Midnight Boys will give you our reactions to Hot D. Next Tuesday, we'll be live at 7 p.m. on YouTube, reacting to the finale of the Acolyte.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Get into it, Jomi. And Thursday, we'll be back for the Boys Season 4 finale. Every Sunday, Talk to Thrones will be up right after our latest episode of Hot D. Do not forget, you guys, July 17th at the El Rey Theater.
Jomi's B-Day.
Jomi's B-Day.
Let's go.
Gotta do it. We also have to talk about the fact that we got a live show, motherfucker.
That's right.
Go to, where you go? Where they go? Ringer events.
Ringer.com/events.
Ringer.com/events. Get your tickets, motherfuckers. Our producer is Steve, the architect Ahlman. Jonathan Choco Taco, Mr. Midnight, Count Huncula, Chocolate Bear, Chalkman,
Chalkman.
Dark Chocolate, Chocky.
There's 4 black folks on this show.
Yeah, but
Whoa, Coco Melon Kerm?
Coco Melon Kerm.
is insane.
Aleya knows nicknames. Zenieris.
Last week.
Jomi, explain Adeniran on socials. # Dairy Dynasty Adeniran. That's the fuck I'm talking about. I like that one. Additional production from Arjuna, the Watcher. Ramgopal. Chuck, takes out.
Jedi lives matter. My skin is soft as silk. And if you come into Jomi's B-Day, make sure you bring some of that mother's milk.
Jomi?
Before we get into this,
Wow.
guys, come on. Professional.
What you mean?
We got wallets.
Keys and
on
wires
here.
all out
Like,
here.
Like, come on, bro.
That's tough.
What you
What
mean?
are
What
we
is this,
doing?
your
We got
bedroom?
the
I
badge.
didn't even
People about to
notice
steal
that.
your
The badge?
identity.
There's a lot going on.
Get the badge on there. What's going on?
Badges, pills, man.
This is the animal pack.
All right, beat that out. No free ads. Beat that
Let's
out.
not go to
You put it in there. This with my vitamins. I gotta take my vitamins.
Yes,
Old
take
man
vitamins.
Van. He
Why
never seen
can't we
her.
take the vitamins before the pod? Why can't we?
He's
What's
got
going
to
on?
steady the flow.
Well, why can't you drink the coffee before the pod?
Whoa.
Get your coffee off the table.
I'm so close to quiet quitting this entire podcast after the last 2 episodes of what we watched. Do not push me further.
Hey,
It ain't gonna be
don't-
quiet
don't
quitting
push me
with Charles.
Hey,
Never quiet.
I'm on it.
Don't quiet quit, nigga. Loud quit. Get the fuck out.
Yeah, loud quit. We've only known you to loud anything.
Get the fuck out. Like, don't quiet quit. Your Charles's protest.
Hey,
So-
look,